sellers where the red box is, right? This red box here represents a ton of aggressive sellers. So these aggressive sellers could not really sustain price lower, because if these aggressive sellers over here were successful, they would have broken price below the Asian range, but they didn't. So this is what we call an absorption, right? Absorption of sellers, right? What does that mean? An absorption of sellers, simply put, simply means that sellers are not in control. They're aggressive, but they're being absorbed, right? They're hitting what we call a demand or a support. They're hitting a support area over here, right? Price is bouncing off, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Bearing in mind, this is a 15-minute chart. So we're seeing 15, 30, 40. We're seeing an hour of bouncing around this area. So we know on NQ between 23,403 and 23,000, so around about the 400, 390 region, we are seeing significantly more aggressive sellers. Therefore, the absorption of sellers tells us that there's buy limit orders resting in this region. So very simply put, we are seeing that sellers here are aggressive, right? These are aggressive sellers over here. Now, have they been rewarded? No, because they would have driven price down here, or they would have at least driven price into this fair value gap. They couldn't sustain lower prices. So what that means is that these aggressive sellers, I'm just going to write AS, aggressive sellers, have failed. That means, right, when you see price breaking to the upside, you can take an entry here, or in a choppy market, you can take advantage of the volatility and you can enter here. Either way, I would want my stop loss below here because we're trading a choppy market, and you take a slightly lower risk reward, right? You can take a 1.5R, for example, right? 1.5R is my favorite risk reward,